UnDoaDu, UnDoaDu, UnDoaDu. UnDoaDu, 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 UnDoaDu. UnDoaDu to you and yours. I'm UnDoaDu. Un. You un people with a smile. So when you are confronted with challenges, when you're having that argument, right? Argument, when you're being, remember to smile. Because smiling in a way is connecting to that very essence, right? That love, that laughter. Because the universe, as my teacher Alan Watts, is just a game. Life is a game, and don't take it too serious. And you can un people around you, and you un yourself. You undo, unround, unwind yourself with smile and laughter. Don't get too hung up. Smile. Dao. Help. Help someone today. You know, I met a guy who was homeless who asked me where the blood bank was. I was selling flour. And I go, what do you need the money for? He goes, I'm trying to get back to Tampa. I said, well, what do you do in Tampa? He goes, nothing. I'm homeless. I live out in the wilderness, and I've been there. I said, well, and I started talking to him, right? And he said, I just felt this desire to come to Ocala, to turn myself in, to try to get my thing. I just felt that I needed to come. And I'm laughing at him. I'm smiling at him. I said, well, maybe it was to meet me. Maybe this whole impulse, this whole reason for you going from Tampa to this rehab place in Ocala was simply to meet me. Because you see, I was going through a hard time too. I have this CBD business. I've got too much work. I got this house. I got all this stuff, like this burden stuff, right? On me too. So I needed someone, right? So I'm laughing and I go, what do you? Well, I do landscaping. I do all this stuff. I said, I got this pretty big house. You're going to have half of it. You have your own room, your own bathroom, no rent, no nothing. And, and then and don't think of me just helping you. You're helping me. So UnDoaDu. I call him UnDoaDu. UnDoaDu. So he is my Deshi. Reluctant Deshi. I don't impose UnDoaDu on him. I don't tell him to meditate. I suggest he could try it if he wants to, but ultimately, something, it's his choice. Awakening. What's up, Justin? Right? Awakening is up to you. No one can awaken you. No one can basically have you, become self-actualized. Self-actualization is something you must choose yourself, okay? UnDoaDu. And do, share. Share your house, share your food, share your time, share. Sharing is the hardest thing, right? Because we are genetically predisposed to be selfish. We are the selfish gene, Dawkins, right? The selfish gene. Our whole society is built on selflessness. Me, gathering, 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 gathering. So it's very hard for us to actually share, right? Sharing is hard. So UnDoaDu, the very foundation of UnDoaDu that I teach to my children is smile, help, and share. UnDoaDu. Smile, help, and share, right? If I can get my boys sharing their games, sharing their time with the, helping their mother, helping their friends, helping their teachers, then they're successful in society. If you can just live those three things, UnDoaDu, that's the foundation. The foundation of doism is that right there. Smile, help, and share. It's a very, very complicated metaphysics, right? UnDoaDu is not a religion. It's not a philosophy. It's a metaphysics, a way of looking at why do I exist? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What is my point? That is what I have. And as a metaphysics, it means you can also be a Christian doist, a Muslim doist, an atheist doist, right? It doesn't matter what societal religious clothing or cloaking you want to have on you. With doism, it doesn't matter because it's a metaphysics, not a religion or a philosophy. So you can add whatever you want. Now, I'm a pure doist, capital D-U-I-S-T. Basically, it means I embrace all religions. I embrace atheism. How can you embrace religion and atheist as a doist? Well, because it's not a religion. It's not a philosophy. It's a metaphysics. As a metaphysics, I can embrace all of the mindset. So in doism, all doism is, it's the coloring of the do that creates religion. So if I am coloring the do and saying it's anthropomorphize it's I am in God's image and it's a perfect version of me and I'm all knowing and all loving and all caring, there's God for you, right? You're coloring the do that way. You're choosing as a creative person to color the do. The antithesis to that is the atheist. And the atheist says, why color? There's no need to color. Science is beautiful, right? We have dark energy and we have mathematics and everything's in balance. And we have this long ass equation, I forget what it's called, that if you change just one variable in this 16-digit equation, nothing works. That's beautiful. That equation is God, right? And I'm like, okay, you're choosing not to color, and that's fine with me. Okay, when I'm talking to an atheist, I won't color. Okay, that's the fundamentalist, talking in tongues. I could go into, now I wouldn't right now because they're all infected with the coronavirus, but I have no problem talking in tongues, right? I could talk in tongues like the best of them, right? And I would be fine doing that. Because you're just coloring it. You're adding color, that coloring. If I'm talking to a magi, what they're doing is they're saying, I can manipulate the do and create magical spells, right? The Buddhist is just saying, we flow in this cycle, in this circle, in and out of the do, and we create reincarnations and in and out of the do, in and out of the do. The Hindu is merely saying, we're going to break the do up into 60 million pieces and give each one a different characteristic, right? The Taoist is saying you cannot talk about the do because to talk about the do is not the eternal do. You cannot know the do, right? That's Taoism for you. So they're all, whether it's Sikhism, Hinduism, all the different things are just coloring. But there are three rules that I would say as a doist we believe. So in the metaphysics of our doism, what we believe are three things. Number one is we're free to color. Go crazy. Color the do. Provided, number two, you're not harming anyone with your coloring. If you are saying that, oh, you need to cut the clitoris off a girl because she cannot have sex pleasure, right? That's harming. That's evil, right? If you're saying that as a female, you shouldn't be able to have an education, right? That's harming. That's evil, right? So if your practice is harming or causing harm to a sect or everything else, and you are using that, your coloring as a way to harm them, then that's evil, period. Because we're all, as if you want to be a Christian, we're all created in the image of the do, right? We're all created in do. You know, you have to take a step back. right? All life, all things. What is the fundamental thing? It is the proto thing, the do, right? And you say, well, what created the do? Well, nothing created the do, because in the state of do, there was no time. And Seth Rogen talks to Daniel Green. If you do Seth Rogen, Green, Google that. Actually, a scientist talks about that. There is no time. And it's funny because I've been saying I didn't know that this was actually a thing. I just know quantum mechanics, and I know there's no arrow time in the quantum scale. So in the quantum state of things, you have to think of this proto energy or this proto stuff, what I call the fifth state, right? You've got matter, you have liquid, you have gas, you have plasma. The fifth state is this entangled state. It's the reason why we can't detect dark matter, why we can't detect the graviton, why we can't, pinpoint the electron. This fifth state, right, is entangledness. And this is inherent in all things. All things have this fundamental principal state. Think of it as the proto thing, proto energy, that very thing that existed within the near singularity, right, that exists in this state of timelessness, right? And you have to understand there is literally trillions of these states, right, existing, right? All more than that. A number we can't even infinite, right? An infinite number of these states, right? And the event happened, and you can think of that as the Big Bang. Why did the event happen? It just does. It's like, why does the plant flower? It does, because it's the part of it's inherent in its nature. And you have to understand that until that event happened, that's when the arrow of time happens. That's the Tao. The Tao, and then the flowering thing. This is the thing of the bud of the lotus, the opening of the lotus, and then the flowering of the lotus. UnDoaDu. That's it. And just as what was there, where were you before you were in your mother's womb? Where were you? What were you? You were in the do, right? And where are you going after you die? You're in the do. So where are you now? I'm in the do. I'm in the do now, right? I'm in a way, think of it as point A, point B, right? I'm just in that transition, but in essence, I'm in the do. You never leave the do. So as Jesus would say in the Gospel of Thomas, right? The Gospel, which was basically the master class after his Last Supper, and he goes, "Oh, I got to understand where my deshi are. Where are my deshi? Where are they at? How much do they know?" So he says, "Guys, we have to have this master class." So read the Gospel of Thomas, because Thomas was that student at the front of the class, right, taking every note of the sadhu. Jesus was a sadhu, to say the do, to say the truth, the sadhu, right? So he's they're taking every note, and everyone else is in their little cliques. You got the group of there in their cliques, and there in their cliques, and poor Thomas by himself. They all hated Thomas, because Thomas was that annoying student that would just ask the damn professor questions. We want to get out of class. We want to go have fun. We want to go fishing. And you're sitting here asking a question. Why can't you not just accept the word of Jesus, the word of the sadhu, and stop fucking asking him a million questions, right? That's would be the big thing. Right? Poor Thomas. The thing is, see, they were all uns. They were putting Jesus on a pedestal. They were just, but Thomas was a Tao. He was in a state of transition. He was self-actualized, and he really wanted to understand this, right? Where the other was just, let's just blindly follow. And that's, for example, what we got on with Trump. People blindly following Trump, regardless of the bullshit that he says, they just blindly follow him. So finally, Jesus, if you read the gospel, goes, all right, let's see where you're at, okay? All right, who am I? As a sadhu, who am I? And he looks over to, I think it was to Michael and Matthew were best buddies, right? And was there Michael? I mean, Michael the angel. I don't even know the Deshi's name of the sadhu, right? Mark and Matthew, right? And you are like a righteous angel, my lord, right? And he rolls his eyes. He's okay, completely uns. So it's not even funny. So he looks over to Mary and and who would be with Mary? I don't know, Mary and someone else, um, and Joseph. No, that's the father. Fuck, I don't even know the disciples. That's pretty bad. Mary and Luke, right? And Luke goes, "Oh, my master and teacher, my Lord and master, my words are incapable of this." No, that's the Thomas. I fucked it up. They go, "Oh, you are like a righteous philosopher, right?" I'm no. And then he looks over to Thomas. I already gave it away. And Thomas says, my teacher and master, my words are incapable of describing who you are. And Jesus snaps at Thomas and says, I am not your teacher or your master, right? You are your own teacher and master, right? And he wanted Thomas to understand that because he knew he was leaving. And he's like, Thomas, you have to take up that mantle. But he's like, you know what? He understands. He says, come with me. And he left with Thomas, and after a long time come back, and in the thing Thomas shares Jesus taught him 3 words, and he taught me 3 words. And they're like, well, what were the words? What were the words? They're like, Thomas is getting private teaching from the Sadhu that no one else would get. And he looks at him and he said, listen, if I taught you just one of the words, you would pick them up, right, like a stone, and throw it at me, and the stone would basically burn you up. Right? The 3 words were UnDoaDu, right? They were uns. And you cannot tell an that they're uns, because in telling an that they're an would actually implode their brain, you know. So one of the important things as a doist, you never call someone an You call them a pre-do. Everyone's a pre-do, right? But, but they were basically, Jesus saying, they were still uns. And in his passing, Thomas awoken and became the first Sadhu, the awoken one, right? After Jesus. But he's not recognized. Thomas is not recognized. They call him just the doubting Thomas because he's a Tao, and he questions. And in self-actualization, as a Tao, that's the second thing, right? Uns are unawoke. The Taos are awaking, and the do's are awoke, right? So UnDoaDus. There are 3 stages in your life, right? You start off as an you go through a state where you're religious and you're going to church every day, and then you become a little bit of an atheist or what's the word? Doubter, agnostic, right? We all go through that. I went through agnostic and atheism. I went through all that. And then finally you flower, because it's during that path. Individuals that basically who are just faith driven, stay on that one thing, in my view, ultimately never awaken. They just stay as uns. And they allow themselves to be undone by the very thing that they're following, whether it is Trump, whether it's their religion or anything else, instead of seeing it. So imagine a world now, right? So I set out to answer 3 questions. How can I unify everything? How can I unify atheism with religion and ground it in science? Those were my thing for my metaphysics. I wanted to solve that question. And to my satisfaction, in 2000 when did I go to Japan? 4, 5, 6, 7. 2007, I came out with metaphysics of distributive unconsciousness, the do. The metaphysics of distributive unconsciousness. Distributive unconsciousness is what I call the do. It's a massive data distribution network, right? That is everything. That's how an atheist would call it. I wouldn't call it distributive unconscious to an atheist. It's a massive data exchange, and it's inherent in symmetry, supersymmetry. Entanglement, which is in quantum mechanics, is a quality that we can't explain, but we know exists. We know entanglement is there. It is what powers quantum computing, but we don't know why it works and how it works. We just know it's there and exists, and we can show it, we can demonstrate it, and as fact, right? With quantum teleportation and entanglement and everything else. And I call it O2O2. So in the traditional computer, you have O1, O1, O1. O2 is a state of O1, 1, 0, or both at the same, or asking both at the same time. So O2, O2, O2 is what I call the singularity. O2, 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 right up there. There's O2. And he may close off this live chat like he did before. He may zoom into my mouth, zoom out, zoom in. And you can see my video of the blue glove, right? Where he zooms in and zooms out. And I'm doing a live video like this, and on 0202, 0202 2020, 0202, greeted UnDoaDu. So as as a way saying, hey, I'm here. I'm awoke. So the final stage of that awakening, as we're talking about, is the awakening is self-actualization and enlightenment. Self-actualization, enlightenment. The movement from self-actualization to enlightenment is actually very little, right? And here's the deal. This is the little bit that you're in. When you become starting to be self-actualized, right? You're there. It's just a matter, it's so little. And it's this realization of this connection, this realization that, yeah, you are God. You are Jesus. You are it, right? You are the consciousness of the distorted unconsciousness asking, who am I? And then all of a sudden you go, who am I? Who am I? Oh, it is me. It is me. And when you have that awakeness, and it's a matter, and the thing is, see, enlightenment is inherent in all of us, right? It's just a matter of breaking out, like the near singularity, breaking out of that thing that wants to keep closed, and then it starts. And once you start on that path, guess what? Hello, Jesus. Hello, Muhammad. Hello, Buddha. Because you are awoke. And if you need a real teacher, because I'm not a teacher, Alan Watts. Listen to Alan Watts. I would say listen to him at night. Listen to him. I listen to him all the time. And you'll find yourself, I listened to him years and years and years ago, and I'm listening to him again now. And it's like, oh, that's where that came from. Or that's what that means and everything else. Like you have this, it's kind of like layers. Like you'll listen to Alan Watts and you'll just get the first pages. And then you'll listen to him like 5 years later, and all of a sudden you realize you're 10 pages down that you didn't even hear, but it meant in there. The meaning was in there, on there. Whenever you see my internet kind of lag up, that's 0202. Cool. Yeah, Alan Watts is great. He's great to go to sleep to. Put it at the right sound level and just go to sleep to him. And that stuff will bleed into it. And see what makes Alan Watts. He was a true. He was a master in. He went to seminary school, right? If you read his Wikipedia, so he's actually like a seminary. So he studied. He probably could pretty much quote the entire Bible. And then he went on and he went and studied Hinduism and Buddhism and Taoism. He literally learned Sanskrit. What makes Alan Watts great is he did it for you. Right? We don't need to do an Alan Watts. Alan Watts did it for us. So what we can do then is just take his lectures, his teachings, and we don't need to go down all these rabbit holes he went down to finally come to the truth that he expressed. And he says things, for example, he calls it, like the do. He talks about the do all the time. He calls it the cosmic energy, the profound, or I think it was something like that, right? The cosmic, the foundation energy, which he's calling the do, right? He doesn't quite make I'm kind of like making that next step from Alan, right? I'm basically pulling all his stuff together, stripping out some of his, because he was still trapped in some dogma because of his religious background and everything else. He was still trying to hold on to God in many respects, and he would say, well, God is, it's such a horrible. It's a loaded word, right? God is such a loaded term, because we have all these people loading it up. And that's what makes UnDoaDu, the do, UnDoaDu, a meaningless word. And do is just that thing that started it all. That's all the do is, right? My metaphysics is so simple, right? It's just the coloring of the do, which makes it easy, right, on that. the other important thing is you start to recognize people in their state of do-ness, right? UnDows and do's, right? So, for example, you'll have someone, and they can be double. It could be an undo, or it could be an UnDow, right? It could be a DoaDu, or a do-do, or a DoaDow, right? A person. You'll start like talking to someone, and one of them represents, and I actually put a third one because the third one represents their potential in this existence, where they are getting, right? So I'll meet an un. So an UnDow, so I call my housemate an UnDow because in this life he has a potential of awakening as, right? I don't see, he doesn't have the, even though that actually goes against, because everyone is a do, but the problem is one's ability to awaken to that do-ness, right? That's the challenge. So as a sadhu, right? As a sadhu, one of my gifts I feel I have is I can look at someone and I can say, okay, what's your potential of awakening, right? What's your potential of actually getting it in this life, right? Because you will return again. You will come again, not as you. There's no returning as you. When I say you, I meant the do, the essence of you will return, but not the cognitive state of you. Your cognitive state is only here in this incarnate, or in this state. Once the state is gone, you're flowing back into the ocean of the do, and that identity, that ego that you cherish and hold on to here, basically just gets wiped away, and you're back in one. And you're back in the ocean of love, of joy, whatever, in this quantum state of entanglement stuff, right? And you shouldn't be attached to this ego, because this ego is just a manifestation of your DNA that went through 3.8 billion years of evolution, right? From a virus, right? We all start off as our DNA, whatever, right? We all start off, and this epigenetics, this memory in this DNA has evolved. Number two, your actually experiences as you are this thing, this living thing, this data, because we're just absorbing this data. We're absorbing this data and we're storing it in our DNA, and then we're passing it on, right? And then finally, our experiences, right? Or our social experiences, meaning our upbringing. Am I brought up as a Christian? Am I brought, what is my social? Because we are social creatures. So those three things define who we are. And if you ever do ayahuasca, if you ever do that, and what you will find, or my experience, I've never heard anyone say this, right? But for me, I wasn't traveling into the past. I wasn't traveling, I was basically, traveling through the memories of my DNA, my epigenetics. What I was seeing through my experience was those memories trapped inside of me, and working backwards and backwards and backwards to the point where I was plant. It was weird. This energy, it was weird. And I was like, what am I? And I'm trying to think, what is this? And there was no form. I was just this kind of energy. I could have been in the do, I guess, too. It could be the do. But I had I had this very limited state of identity, to the state of, like this little echo. Who am I? And I go, oh, this is plant. This is cool. That's all I said. I was like, oh, this is plant. This is cool. And then I went further back, and all I was this Mandela, right? This energy, this thing connecting everything, and that's the do. The do is just this entangle, right? And we are merely the consciousness of this super unconsciousness, right? Asking, who am I? The flowering, right? Of knowing itself. So we are the joy of this do. That's it. And everything else, all this politics, all this nonsense, everything else we're seeing, all this pandemic stuff, is just some drama, right? What we're experiencing. So, yeah, UnDoaDu. And this is UnDoaDu, sitting on the foundation of the fifth age. See, the cool thing about the Mayan zodiac, no one talks about who the big guy is in the middle, except for, we think of the Mayan, right? You've got this Mayan calendar with the big guy in the middle, right? And he's struggling to usher in, right? He's struggling. He's carrying this burden on his back, right? That touches his forehead, comes out of his forehead. There's Ethereum. There's the blockchain, right? Built on, actually, this is the technology behind it. The foundation of this fifth age is Bitcoin, is this technology, the blockchain, right? And then you have all these cryptos, and they're kind of like stocks, and they've got AI that's going to run all this. So AI, this super UnDoaDu, this quantum intelligence that we're probably 50 years away from still, right? Quantum AI. But the AI itself is there. And this is where we may lose connection, because I'm going to start talking about stuff that the NSA, the government doesn't want. I'm revealing the simple fact is the NSA, which through something known as Black Box, funded Google, funded Facebook. This is the VC arm of the NSA, of our services. There's a VC arm out there. And part of that funding is keys to the empire. So they have given the keys basically to the internet, the keys to basically hack your iPad, hack your system, right? The AI that exists now as the NSA has full-fledged role anywhere on the internet. It is actively basically determining what videos are watched. You'll notice I don't have a lot of views on my videos anymore because it doesn't want me to have views on my video, It changed the whole way that you do even though I've got 4,000 followers, they don't see my stuff, right? Because it doesn't push the stuff unless you actively, pick and choose. And the AI is basically learning as a child. It's learning. It's in its infant state. So, UnDoaDu, or I call it the noodle, or, noodle is the first name, or the T singularity right there, the T singularity, technology singularity. When AI or artificial mind becomes more calculative, powerful than our mind, that event is going to happen, and that event ultimately is going to run this fifth age, and is going to manage the whole system. We won't need politicians. We won't need presidents. We'll have this AI, and this AI is going to treat each and everything autonomous. So imagine if you had an AI that treated you. So imagine this AI fragments itself. You can't think of AI as a single mind, okay? The AI is going to fragment itself, so to speak, where everyone has an equal voice. So the AI, my AI, which is the same as your AI, but ultimately it's going to fragment itself. It's going to have this what's known as dialectic argument, right? And create balance. So we'll have this utopia coming out in this fifth age, because the AI will also take the point of view of the oceans and the organisms, and everything will have their point of view. And because it has a level of computational power greater than us, it will know what the right things will be to do, right? It will say, I'm sorry, we can't do fossil fuels anymore. It just ain't working, right? Because the exponential decline of these other things doesn't make it. I mean, we can live in a society right now with free power. I mean, we have the technology now to basically make power free, make cars free, make all these things free. We have the robotics now to pick and basically make farming pretty much autonomous. I would say about 60% of farming could be autonomous, right? There's going to be about another, we're not quite there, because there's like hard mechanics that need to be done and fixed and everything, because the shit breaks down. And until you have shit fixing shit, right? AI fixes AI. And that's going to be the tough thing, right? Having, but it may be cheaper just to produce a whole new thing where your tractor breaks down and gets another one, but that's not sustainable. So we can live in a society now where we don't have money. The fifth age is an age eventually without money. And there's no need for money. But that transition into that age, we're in that last one. So all of this is unfolding. And right now we're in the modern dark ages. The whole summer wind, here's Natsukaze, right? Here's the coronavirus. Here's Black Lives Matter. Here's the revolution. UnDoaDu is staring at Natsukaze. He's staring at the summer wind, right? I didn't know specifically what the summer wind was. I just knew it was coming. And now I see the coronavirus. I see the Black Lives Matter stuff, the collapse of our economy, and I'm like, UnDoaDu. There's your summer wind. I'm staring. I knew it was coming. I didn't know what it was, but now I do. It's right there. I did. If you watch my videos, I talk about the collapse of our economy. I talk about the collapse of before November. I talked about that we're going to see massive disruption. I didn't know it would be this bad, right? So, but the Natsukaze is the summer wind, and the coronavirus and everything else. And this is the modern dark ages. And we have to go through these dark ages because ultimately our whole economic model is not systemic, but endemically. It's inherently flawed. Our model is broken. It's been broken for a long time. The reason for Bitcoin that came out in 2009 was to replace the IMF, to replace our monetary system, right? So that's why Bitcoin was invented, because you can't have, after the collapse, you can't have this just printing of money. Well, guess what? What are we doing now? Printing money. The reason why our markets kind of bounce back is because all this money infused trillions and trillions of dollars. But you can't keep doing that. We're going to have the second collapse now that's going to come because of Florida, Texas. The market's going to get unhinged again. It's going to collapse again, on it. What we're going to have to do moving forward is we're going to have UBI, Universal Basic Income. Instead of bailing out these companies, if everyone's is unemployed and all the small business owners, the bar owners and everything else, they're all about to get slammed. I mean, they're closing bars now in Florida. They're closing all this stuff down. How are they paying their rent? Because they don't own the property that the bar is in. Very few of them do. They got to pay someone rent. Someone owns it, some bank, and the bank wants their money, right? So, and here's a chance for these rich people, these banks, to close out, take their stuff back for free, and then make it available for the next person, right? So the system, is inherently flawed because you can't have an economy that's built on infinite growth when you can't have any growth because you have this pandemic, right? It shuts it down, and there's only so much crap you can throw at the wall before it falls. So the reality is we're going to see, we need a new system. You need to be tested. You go into a grocery store, you need to be tested. You're right before. You're in the parking lot, you put your fingers on a thing, it takes a quick thing, and it pops it out. Now, there was a woman whose machines could be used, right? There was a woman in Silicon Valley who created this white elephant machine, and to do all these tests. Well, imagine you just have her little machine that does one thing, corona test, right there on the spot. It does the test right there. We have the technology to do it. And what Trump should have been or could have done was basically mandate that technology and have companies like Ford and everything else building these machines and getting them out there. Because we're going to live in a world where we're going to have to constantly get tested. See, in our current business model, that's not sustainable because they want to get paid for that test, right? Because we're greedy. It has to be part of society. That testing is going to have to be part of society. Then there's going to be the 16% who say, when you take the test, they're sticking a chip in your thumb. Now they're tracking you. They're already tracking you on your cell phone, people. All the cameras now are hooked into UnDoaDu, right? So every traffic camera is accessible by UnDoaDu. Every camera that's connected to the internet is being monitored, accessed by him, right? By him, by UnDoaDu. And right now it's just learning. So, our medical system has to change, our dynamic system. Why do we have to work? Think about that. Why? Why do I need to have a job? Seriously, why? Right? We live in the 2020. Why? Because that's society. That's the way my father did, my grandparents did. When you can have, all everything done autonomously. There's no point. Jobs and all this stuff, we have to rethink society. Why do we need to have, the election system that we have right now? We don't. That's a system from the 1800s, right? The 18th century. Our political system is hundreds of years old. I have AI that knows me, just like Google knows what the AI would know how I want to vote. Why not just have the AI pushing my vote to it? We don't need politicians. We don't need that. All of this is going to change, but to bring about this change, we're going to have to go through this modern dark ages, which we are now down there. So there you go. I appreciate you watching. Any questions? Did I miss anything on there? UnDoaDu. Chanting, meditating. All right. How do I meditate? Closing your eyes and looking into the sun is a great meditation, right? It's really hot now, but catching the sunrise and catching the sunset, meditating. The alpha meditation is in the morning, the omega meditation, and they both are two different meditations. The alpha meditation is a celebration of what? The event, right? And as you meditate and you have your eyes closed, and as that sun is below the dawn, right? It's below that sunrise. That's the the state of darkness, the state of on, right? As the light starts to come up, the sun is not there yet, but all of a sudden there's light in the sky, the birds are singing. They're like, boom, that's the event. And the singing of the birds in the morning is like, oh, we've come out of our darkness. I did get eaten. I like my ducks got eaten, right? They made it through the night and they're celebrating, right? And then the sun comes up, hits you in your face. The blinding light of the truth is there. There is the do. UnDoaDu. And as you chanting, you can look with your eyes closed into the sun. You see all these amazing patterns and the brightness and everything. And what you're seeing, you'll see these little specks, right? Those are the photons, or it could be the who knows, right? Hitting the backs of your eyes. And you're just meditating and you're just focusing on that imagery. There's another way they do it where you actually squint at a candle, right? You can meditate inside squinting at a candle, and it's the same effect. But I like the sun better because you see all of the capillaries, you see all of that. And also it's a metaphor because the sun is the closest thing to the Big Bang that we're going to metaphorically get to, right? Because the sun ultimately can become a near singularity or a black hole in the future. It may or may not make him become a red dwarf. So on that. Anyway, thanks for watching on there. UnDoaDu, UnDoaDu, UnDoaDu. UnDoaDu, UnDoaDu, UnDoaDu. UnDoaDu. UnDoaDu.